Greenways Open Space Commission meeting. And I would call the meeting to order at 7:03. And could we please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good. Thank you. It's good to see everyone. I will call the roll. So Urbani.
Present.
Geist is at a track meet. Carson. Here. Brown.
Present.
Phillips.
Here.
Shelton.
Here.
Robinson is ill. Bartlett.
Here.
And Brock. Here. Good. And are here. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Were you going to add?
Yeah, I
something?
was waiting to, I was being polite.
Oh, okay.
I would like to add, as it would be discussion item number 6, current budget data. So we can take a look at the year-end stuff, at least what was given to us, and then we can also look at the expenditures for the month of April, realizing our fiscal year starts April 1. Are there any other additions or deletions to the agenda? I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of the current budget discussion.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Bartlett, second by
Second.
Ms. Brown. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All, any opposed? Any abstentions? Good, thank you. If I believe you have the minutes from April 1st, our regular meeting then. So we want to take a minute or two, look over our April 1st, no kidding, meeting. It wasn't no kidding. We had a quorum and we were able to welcome our new members, Robert Carson and Yolanda Brown. And thank you, Mr. Geis in absentia, that for completing this. A motion to approve. Motion by Mr. Carson. Any second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Bartlett. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes of the April 1st meeting, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Good, thank you. At this time, this is the time of the meeting where the public can comment up to 3 minutes on any subject that you so choose and present to the committee. It does not have to be on the agenda. Hearing none, we will move on to presentations. Are there any presentations that we have this evening, or anybody want to do an impromptu? There are no presentations. Which brings us to our action item, and again, this is kind of a weird one, as you know. At our last meeting, we approved the moving forward with May 3rd as the date for our Dump the Junk, Find a Treasure event. Okay, and again, that was dependent upon whether the bridge was going to close, when it was going to close, and what the date was going to be on that. We also had some suggestions that perhaps we could even move it forward, make it like April 26th, even a week earlier. Well, needless to say, the powers that be, or at least the way fate had it, that we weren't able to make the early April 26th date, and then the bridge closed, as we know all too well, on May 1st. However, just as a point of order and a point for the record, I would like to at least, that's why this action item is here, we need to rescind the original motion, okay? Only from the standpoint is that, okay, we didn't hold it, even though you had the bridge closed, and so just as a point of, and I think that's a fair action item. We also discussed at our meetings prior to that we would not have another one until the fall. So for those of you that are gathering your trash or your treasures, you'll have to wait to sometime like in late September or early October for our fall dump the junk, find a treasure.
You know, Mr. Chair, can I just make a comment about
You may.
it? You know, the St. James rummage sale was, that same weekend.
Yes,
And attendance was way down.
yes.
I mean, way, way, way down. So you made a good call.
Well,
Or we
it wasn't, well, it was, sometimes the Wayne County made the call for us, and that kind of made it. But any other question or any discussion on the action item to rescind the dump the junk, find a treasure event for this spring?
Just that I think people did really want to have it, unfortunately, because I've
Yes.
been seeing them on Facebook asking about it.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
good that you're
Yeah.
announcing
Yeah,
that
yeah,
we're
they're
rescinding it.
Yep, very much so. And then, yeah, so it's not going to happen until the fall, so please know that. I would entertain a motion then to approve the action item to rescind the spring dump the junk, find a treasure event.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Banny,
Second.
second by Ms. Phillips. Any further discussion? All those in favor of rescinding the spring dump the junk, find a treasure event, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Good. Well, as you know, we have a number of discussion items, but I think some of these can be dispatched pretty quickly in some cases. But we have since April 22nd and the week thereof for Earth Day and Earth Week. And as we all know, being environmentally conscious, that every day is Earth Day, and what we do obviously makes a difference in our little corner of the world and also in the world. But any comments from people in terms of? I'll open it up to the committee here in terms of your successes, perhaps that you either participated in or that you saw as a part of the Earth Week events that we talked
Yeah,
about.
I was going to mention it in my report for the Conservancy. We had an amazing presentation.
Awesome. So you want to hold it to that point?
I'll hold it
okay,
to
but
the-
that's good. But it was
Yeah.
well again. Anybody?
Dr. Roscoe's nature walks were excellent on Earth Day.
Yes.
They were really good.
I do know in the middle school and the elementaries were involved. The teachers took their students outside and they did some campus kind of cleanups in their area. And, for Park Lane Elementary, that's quite the task since they're under construction, that was that, as did the high school. I know Dr. Roscoe had a number of different activities for students to participate. I drove past at one point and I saw, students were outside and they were involved in, on that particular, the real Earth Day of April 22nd. Any other comment or any successes that you want to maybe mention?
How did the Kiwanis cleanup day go?
Anybody
Does
participate in the
know? I
Kiwanis
haven't
cleanup?
heard anything. Mickey, do you know?
Nobody? I saw people out, okay, we were leaving the island, okay, when we were able to, obviously, but we had to leave, and there were people that were gathering and people that were actually, in areas, and the island looks cleaner. I do know, our initiative to get out and clean up our signs, I think was very successful. I know, Mr. Carson was out and did some stuff. Miss Brown perhaps didn't do it. I know
No,
I
I failed.
went and did that. The Dawn, whatever the super stuff is, really works pretty well because not only does it clean it up, but also if you leave it on and the rain hits it, it does it even better. So as I was walking my dog today, I was like, wow, this really looks good. So that was a positive kind of thing that obviously that happened. And then you're going to talk about the Nature Conservancy and their activities that day, which looked, but the whole focus and whole idea is this is a daily kind of consciousness that we're trying to get. And obviously when we're reaching out to the schools, what we're trying to do is we want to, the next stewards of our environment are in the schools right now, okay, K through 12. So the more that we can, involve kids in that, I think that's good. So anything else on the successes of the Earth Week or Earth Day. Our next discussion item then is the Greenways open space use sign, and then the open space sign replacements that we'll talk about. But any comments or anything? We have you all. I meant to bring it, and I came right from the funeral home. But have you seen the new signs that we have placed on the trails?
Yes.
Yes. No.
I haven't yet.
Okay, Mandy, have you seen them?
No, I
All right. Yes, we know you have. Okay. Yes. Bert, have you seen the new signs? Okay, so I went to.
I will say that
Go ahead. Why
also,
don't you make a comment?
yeah, I observed actually a couple of our youth stop, read the sign, talk about it. And actually, I guess that brings a question about the motorized vehicles, because they had an electric type vehicle. And so the two children, they had a debate and then elected to take the trail anyway. So I spoke with them after and I said, I don't have that answer, but it was really great to see them stop and think about it. I think that was like the biggest success, actually, is they paid attention to it. So good job getting those up, and people are considering it.
Were they electric bikes or what were they?
Like an electric motorcycle, like small motorcycle,
Like a dirt bike?
but not really a dirt bike. I mean, the tires were knobby. Yeah, it was kind of, but they weren't noisy at all. They were super quiet.
Oh, it might have been electric.
Yeah, it was definitely electric
okay.
though, all electric.
I don't know
Yeah.
if it's allowed, but I've had mine out there, but it's hard on the bikes. It's
Right.
very hard on the bikes.
From what I understand, former police chief Porcerelli, current supervisor, as we were looking at the signs, he said, he's looking at the motorized vehicle. I says, well, does that apply also to electric bikes? He says, no, that perhaps under the Michigan code, vehicle code, that they're not considered motorized vehicles. Okay, and I don't know. So I want to get a clarification of that. But as I was picking up the signs here originally, he said, took a look at it and he says, oh, these look really good. And I said, the motorized vehicle part, and I said, applies to bikes, right? Electric bikes. And he said, no, they're not, so we'll get a clarification on that.
Yeah,
okay?
sounds good.
So I don't think we need to contact the township attorney, but, but we'll do what we can. Somebody is we have a guest that's, we're trying to invite him in. Oh, hey, all the seats are free, man. Yeah, come on in.
We scared them away.
Okay. Anyway, but for all of our signs that we have put up for all the major trails, we have at least 5 or 6 major trails. We have Ray Geist and I installed those. Okay. However, and Mr. Carson, you can maybe speak to this too. Up in the wild north end that we have. You want to take a little bit?
I was out a couple weeks back, and one of the signs, it was unclear whether it had been vandalized or hit by a vehicle, possibly. But it was knocked over and bent off at the base. So we did replace that post. I've been out there a couple times since. It's still standing now, which is good.
Good.
And if we see it happen again, maybe we'll put in a 4x4 post or something instead that's a little more stable.
Right. So that's on Morkland, which is near, the bird sanctuary, the far north end of the bird sanctuary is in that area.
Yeah.
And so right at the trail there. So there has been some tampering. And again, when we purchased the posts for those, we didn't buy just the spindly ones that you generally can use for your garden. No, these were at least a step up, and I think now we're looking at a bigger step up. And and again, Ms. Brown, I think you made some comment like, hey, why are we doing this, or what is this? And at least historically, since COVID, okay, in the whole movement in many ways to get people out and enjoying nature and that, and so getting some healthy, and there's so many health benefits, as we know, mental, emotional, and physical, to being in communion with the outdoors. But we've also increased activity on our trails, okay? And we've had some issues in the past about why we have these signs and why we needed these posted is that we have had people after hours, many times after hours, on the trail, which is also dangerous. It's a safety issue, okay? I mean, we had bikers, for example, like at, like midnight, okay? So not only does it many times disturb the neighborhood, but it also does, there's a safety issue. You hit one of those trees in the middle of the woods, you could be in pretty bad shape. There's some pretty other obvious ones why, no fires, leave wildflowers alone. That's why they're called wildflowers. Things like that, okay? So, but, so for all of our trails, which we're trying to increase connectivity for people and enjoyment, we're just trying to, there are certain rules and regulations, just like you can't willy-nilly go in there and, I want to cut that tree down, okay? Because it's public township property that is preserved in perpetuity, so that's where we're at with that. But again, the signs are posted, and we have some, we'll monitor those. We also, several meetings ago, we had, like back in 2024, we made a motion and we approved through an action item to purchase new open space signs, because some of them are in such disrepair you can't even tell what date there were, how many acres, and the one right on Meridian, right as you come across the thoroughfare canal heading north, that sign is like, it's open space, but you can't see what it is. So we already have made a motion and it's in our budget to buy signs, to purchase some signs coming, up to $5,000. So that's a pretty big expenditures. But we also wanted to go and look and see about cleaning them up, the ones we could clean up, because they haven't been cleaned up. Some of them have never been cleaned up ever, like 30 years. So we released on that, and I'm very pleased to report, that, we're trying to be prudent stewards of our monies, that we allowed, that we don't have to maybe buy as many, or if we do, they'll last longer. So any question about that? So that's, yeah, go ahead.
So I'm still really confused about this.
Okay,
We approved the money for new signs,
correct.
but they're not up yet
No,
because
we were waiting, we try to coordinate it with Earth Week, okay, that, one of our little projects is like, between now and whenever, let's go clean up the ones we have, let's go do a survey. I mean, we did this a while back, right, Bert, when I think, one of our former student liaisons went out and into the Zoe went out and did a PowerPoint and took pictures and did that. So we've identified ones, but now we've cleaned some up, and it's kind of like, well, we don't have, that one looks okay. Have to last another couple of years. What I think we found, and I think you will all agree, the posts themselves, those woolmanized posts, those are in rough shape. And I don't know, if the trouble is, if you paint them, you got to maintain that all the time too. But that might be another, possibility, that we can talk about.
because
But-
there's two, that one on Horse Mill by Canal Drive.
Oh, it's horrible.
And I think there's another one on Park Lane up by Horse Mill, Park Lane and Horse Mill somewhere. There's one I've heard,
Yes,
a
yes,
friend told me that it's
right.
really bad, so.
Right. But some of them, you clean that one up and it looked like, whoa, that looks pretty good,
really?
so.
Yeah,
So respond, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry?
I went through and looked at those a couple weeks back, and the one at the end of Canal on Horse Mill I couldn't really touch it. If I would have attempted to wash it, it would have just,
Disintegrated.
yeah, so it needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
The other ones weren't in too bad of shape. Possibly replacing some of the posts would help. I think the one just north of Horse Mill on Park Lane was probably the next worst in condition.
Heard.
Yes.
But it was okay. I mean, it was depending on how many others, where they rank and,
Right.
and which ones we want to replace.
So we've compiled a list. We have a list of at least some that we know, hey, this has got to go, this has got to go, this is, you can't read these. So so what I'm suggesting is that per our action item that we already approved, okay, and it still is in our budget this year, we are going to go purchase some signs, okay, that the company will, Michigan Signs I think they're out of Taylor, will do the installation. And it's the same type of sign that you see in the open space. You also see a lot of township properties also just have you know, or the Centennial Farm has, you know, welcome to Centennial Farm. It's that same style, so that's the style that we're using.
I have a question.
Yes.
So then on some of these that are going to be replaced, are these signs that also already have these new regulation signs? Or is that an opportunity to maybe fold both into one sign and take advantage of the
Well,
opportunity to
here's the
get
thing.
both
Some of them
messages?
are simply, they identify the area as open space. And, you know, and what we're trying to do, and that's a good question, okay? But what we're also trying to do, we're trying to keep them uniform throughout the township, which they generally have. And the township has I think, a policy about signage, you know, like you can't
Oh, yeah,
just.
they do.
Oh, yeah, they do. Okay, so that's part of it. The other part is we don't want to have too many signs. You know, we have a hard enough time if we put signs on the trails. I mean, we're already having some issues, like you've got some scofflaws that think, oh, I'm not going to obey that law, or I'm not going to obey that regulation. So I you know.
The thought, I don't know where they are, so.
I know. Well,
yeah.
you know, you also have to realize we have 600 acres on Grosse Ile that are identified, and okay, and if you know, we don't have 600 signs, but certainly, but, you know, we have, Bert, would you say how many signs would, you're the resident expert on this, okay, but, well, how many would you say, how many signs that are identified? How, you know, how many properties we know are identified?
I put together the beginning of a very comprehensive spreadsheet, but it's been a year since I did that.
Yeah, sure. No. But what I'm saying, like, when you're looking at, when she worked so diligently in preparing the guide to the natural areas of Grosse Ile, which she's the major author of, I mean, you take a look at all, in our little booklet, you take a look at all the properties, you know, in many cases, they all have signs somewhere, right? There's with very few exceptions, do we have township properties that are open space, that are identified as open space without a sign. There's maybe one or two, like on the far north end, I think. Is it like Bertha Park up there, which is, yeah,
Park and Marion Park.
yeah, Marion Park has one now that we put a new one in, but, okay, so.
So what is our next step on this then to get the new signs? Are we reviewing this, a spreadsheet or this
Yeah,
list
we can look at it, I
together?
can send that to everyone, or we can, so you say, here are the ones that for sure we're gonna do, and then we contact there's like a salesman who works with, this company, and he'll send us a bid, and I'll forward that to everyone.
So we allocated 5,000 in the budget for this
Yes.
year.
Mhm.
Is there a ballpark on how many signs that is, or?
Well, I think the last time we did signs, we did like 6 signs, and it was like signs and posts were like 3,200.
Okay.
So that's quite a few signs. So if we're looking at, you know, and again, we're looking, a little contingency in there for inflation, and you know,
So
but
eight
we're
signs, maybe something
easily
like that?
8 signs, and
Okay.
again, you know, we also have to look at installation costs and things like that. But we have 5,000 allocated and approved.
And also, I just want to add this little bit to the signage ordinance. When I was on the zoning board of appeals, I hope people notice it, is the signs on Macomb were strictly regulated about how big and where they could be, and which I thought was great. I don't know if it's still enforced as much when it comes in from the planning commission
Dr.
or the
James.
zoning board about signs, but I thought that was really great because you don't want too many, you know, with a lot of lights or whatever.
James, any insight on that? Or?
I mean, we do the best job that we can to regulate
Sign issue, yeah.
everything to do with the signs, not just there, but on the island entirely. Whether it be just someone's home or just on one of the main streets like Macomb or something like that, we do our best to regulate it. It can be a little difficult because sometimes you get the people who won't, you know, come in and take the proper steps needed. But we, of course, have Julie Cordes out there doing patrols around the island. Usually hitting specific areas at a time, and then if she notices one that shouldn't be there, we usually tell people, we give them a sticker saying, you know, that you came in to get it, put this on the back so we know that you have come in and done this properly. So if she notices one without it, then she'll report it to us and we'll handle it
Great.
in whatever way is necessary.
But I think at the board meeting coming up, there's a new ordinance policy I saw in the,
I don't partake in adopting new ordinances as much. I haven't, at least. I might in the future, but I can't comment on that because I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I think what it does is it lists the steps that the ordinance enforcer will follow whenever there's a
Okay.
complaint. And so it's nice, we needed that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's in our package for,
Oh, that's nice to know.
That's good to
yeah,
know.
it's for Monday. I don't know if the package has been posted yet. We usually get an advance
Good.
copy.
Great, that's
But-
good to hear.
Well, I do know when various churches throughout the island have even looked, oh, we need a new sign out front of our church or something like that. There's very strict regulations in terms of
Yeah.
like how far the setback is, size, type of sign. I mean, there's some, so we're not, so we're sensitive to that.
Yeah,
Good.
Whenever you travel, you can tell communities that don't have sign ordinances.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Or states that don't regulate even
They don't regulate, it's like,
advertising, so it's like, oh, really? Yeah, well, that's a good thing. Anything else on signs or sign replacements? So I will be moving on that and we'll keep you posted. Yes, go ahead.
We had a conversation, I think, also about trail cams or
Oh,
the
that-
concerns about the vandalism. Is that something that's part of this conversation, or is that more of a?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know. But right, because we did have some
I can
solid
tell you this,
vandalism,
all right?
right?
Here's what I can tell you, okay, is that first off, that's like a last resort. Both times that the signs in the bird sanctuary have been tampered with, I've gone to the police, okay? Because come on, guys. So I've talked to, the police the first time. The second time, I spoke with the deputy chief and said, do I need to file a police report? I will do that. And I said, or we're suggesting, do we need to put a trail cam out there? And I understand, I'm a civil libertarian. I'm, about, you're in the woods, you want to be peaceful, and you don't need to be, Big Brother's here enough. We don't need to be, as your cell phone is there, you just have to pick it up, and all of a sudden we're talking about, you'll see, trail signs, So, yeah, so we're, no, so to my knowledge, we're not there yet, but,
But
if
we'll
that be-
just
if that be
report
the
it,
case,
is
but-
what we'll do if we see
well,
that. We just
exactly.
report
I
it
mean,
to
we're hoping
the-
that, that was just, a one or two time little,
Here's hoping it doesn't happen
it
again.
doesn't happen again. It doesn't need to happen. I just,
And if we did put a camera up, we probably wouldn't discuss it. We'd just go off.
yeah, well, no, maybe we would. I mean, okay. Anything else? Anything on that one? Anything, first off, before I get into the Parkway Woods thing, anything on trail maintenance or any, in your neck of the woods that you're looking that if you've been out in the woods lately, it's kind of tough because it's so muddy. Ms. Shelton, do you know, did they do anything with the, kind of the cleanup in the woods by, where you live and, in that you reported on?
Yes, I was there not too long ago. It's certainly better than it was before. I'd say not perfect, but most of the smaller stuff that could immediately be removed was good. There's still some bigger metal chunks that I'm not really sure
Yeah, sure.
how we do that.
Yeah. No, if there's something larger, I mean, that's, and again, that's off of, is that Park Lane?
Yes, near the Presbyterian Church.
Park Lane, near the Presbyterian Church. Good. Okay, I can send DPS out there, take a look at that, although I know, I did see some members of DPS helping to direct traffic today. So I don't want to deter them from their other work, but yes. Good. Anything else on,
I picked up some trash on the island ferry, and then also noticing the wood chips with the rain and the flow of water.
Yeah.
It's actually, the water is taking it off the trail and over to the side in
Yeah.
several little spots.
yes,
So,
that's not unusual.
yeah,
Yeah, no, but
that's what
That
I've
happens.
observed.
bird sanctuary is good?
Yeah.
Meridian Woods, I believe, from my understanding, last time I was in there, maybe a week or so ago when it wasn't as wet. Meridian Woods has a small tree on the trail, and we're going to try to address it. Ray Geist and I will try to address it soon, okay? So if we can get in there and just move it, or just if we have to cut a piece and then move it, we will, rather than to call TNT and say, for $800, would you please come out and do that? So we're trying to save their money in that regard. But what we can report, and this is maybe our next little emphasis, is that for years there has been a Parkway trail that starts at Parkway and goes through the woods there, and it used to connect behind the playscape. But the playscape is no longer there. And again, we're looking at greater connectivity. We want to maintain the connectivity we have, but we want to look at greater connectivity for island residents per the master plan that we're looking to be, which, I think we're going to approve that pretty soon if we haven't already done so.
So I saw something in the board package on that too.
Yes.
So it'll be coming before us on Monday, I believe.
Yeah, okay, so good. Well, when we get to that point, we'll in your report. But so absent that, and whether or not it was going to be, developed or turned over to open, we already put our dibs in it in the last meeting. Were you here when we said the meeting before last that, the township could very well just sign the playscape area over to make it open space. It's surrounded by open space. We can just, that would be easy, but again, I understand the revenue possibility of if they want to sell it or do something else with it, however they want to develop it. But again, so absent that, we have already, and we worked on this already, they're behind the Grosseal Nature and Land Conservancy Jackson Center. There's a trail that is in open space that we now have kind of pushed out, and we're looking to connect it to the main Parkway trail. So there will still, regardless of what happens to the playscape land, we're still going to have that kind of connectivity with Macomb and Parkway. So one of maybe our focus for this, this summer and maybe this fall is to, however we can expand that and however we can develop that into a trail very similar to like the ones that we have already, okay? The ones that are, at Centennial Farm or at the Bird Sanctuary, at Ferry Gauge, and that. So we're looking at, if we're going to look at some trailways, that was, 9/10 of it is already created. It's just a question of connecting it, how we connect it. So, any question about that?
You can see from Parkway the trail. The last time I went down Parkway and noticed it, it's a lot clearer, and you can tell that there's a trail there now.
Yes, yeah.
There's
We've
some
kind of moved some stuff away. Yes, we did put a sign. Ray and I put a sign there, so there is a sign there about use, proper use of the trail. Again, it's a question of like Yolanda, when we were first looking at that area, as we were walking it with your little potato, okay, your dog. It was a question of it's muddy. There's some areas that need probably some gravel down, and then the other thing I want to at least suggest to you is that for the longest time we have had a portion of the thoroughfare pedestrian bicycle bridge sitting on East River, okay, and it's in. The connector to our East River connector that goes to the main trail in the Meridian Woods. So if you come in off East River, you'll notice to the right, to the one side there, right next to the bench, there's this pretty big piece of,
Yes,
yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
So that was originally over the Thoroughfare Canal, the bicycle path there. The more, originally, I think, Mr. Bletcher and I and this whole committee was looking to see if we couldn't move that over the drainage ditch, over the creek that's in the Meridian Woods. This might be a better use for it, to put it over in the Parkway Woods and make that connector, because there's a ditch there right behind the playscape, and running east and west. There's a drainage ditch, and it's a pretty sizable drainage ditch that probably it's been clogged up over the course of years with who knows, just generally debris, not like with trash. But and if we could kind of clean that up, this bridge could be maybe repurposed and repositioned over that portion. So that way, because right now, if, and it's been this way historically, if you go to the end of the Playscape property, there's like a little wooden pathway over the ditch at that point, and the ditch is pretty shallow at that point, but it's just a question of, okay, this is the way to the Parkway Trail, you just follow that, and again, it's no bigger than a pretty heavy set of, plywood of some sort, so it's not, it's 4 foot wide, maybe no more, if so. So any question about that? So they may be, a possibility of doing something with that. That is where I would like to think we maybe need the expertise of some of our newer members to, to take a look at that, and, maybe we can plan that out and see what we think. So any question about trail maintenance, or about maybe our next focus would be with the Parkway Woods?
I think it's a great next focus. I guess my thought is, what is our next when? Like, shall we plan to gather and map out what we would want to do? How do we go about this?
I'm
this
willing
summer?
to do that. I mean, I don't know,
Yeah.
but
Like we did, and I'll bring potato, and
yeah,
we'll.
that's right. See if the dog gets lost. Dog's about this big, so we were saying, what? It's
Potato's
like,
a
wait,
dog?
it's like, yeah, she has a dog named Potato. Okay, next thing you know, it's like, oh, is the dog there? It just looked like it disappeared in the mud. So it did, yeah.
Aw.
Is there
Anyway.
this weekend is bad, but it's obviously it's Mother's Day weekend, but maybe the following weekend is,
Yeah, we can come up with something like
try
that.
to
So we
look
can
maybe
get
like a
together
Saturday.
and
Let's take a look and gather.
map
and
out
if we
some
can
ideas.
Show up just to take a
I was
look.
gonna ask
Be a
you,
good Eagle Scout project.
Well, we're going to talk about that.
It's coming up.
Yeah.
All right, Mandy.
Very good. Is that almost so we'll set something up. Maybe we can all take a look at that.
I like it.
Or if you're in that neighborhood, go take a look at, walk to the Jackson Center, go behind the Jackson Center, go on the trail there. There's a trail there, and there's wood chips down on that trail. So, and again, I thank John Keim and the DPS for dropping off a huge pile of wood chips at the volunteers at the nature area or nature center put them down. Which does bring us to our next little item, the Eagle Scout project. We had some conversation like prior to this with our Eagle Scout, and Joshua Berg, I want to say Burwald, right? And we walked I gave him some possibilities, and we all kind of had some possibilities that we kind of laid out and gave to him. And he really was kind of enthralled with the idea of the launch that could be a possibility for kayakers. So a kayak, and again, the township, and I think you guys might be familiar with this, the township has a dock and a launching pad at Water's Edge. Okay, so like on the south end of Water's Edge, it's there, and I don't think it's in the, James, you know if it's in the water, or it's not, but I'm just saying, it's not in the water. So if we're looking at a place to put it, and he was really, yeah, I could do that as part of his Eagle Scout project. I offered him also this possibility, okay, like if we can move that bridge or get it here, this might be a great, that you could, develop that pathway, and you could claim that as your project. And so he didn't say no, but he was more looking at the possibility of the kayak possibility.
Maybe Sunrise Park.
Well, and we walked the area like by Morkland, where we're having this issue in the bird sanctuary, and there's some pretty positive slope there, that if you're kind of launching a kayak, that would be a nice place for it.
Wow.
There's also parking there. I did talk to Brian Thiel, and Brian Thiel suggested well, what about like the Bruce Jones Preserve right off the toll bridge? That's a
launch there?
possibility. Have a launch there, and for that matter. And I asked, well, doesn't the township own the other side too, the north side now? So when you're about the bridge, okay, you get the riparian rights, but you also have the property to the right, where right now they're staging oversized trucks and things of that nature. But that's also now township property. So to the north of, what's that, Horse Mill? No, of Bridge Road. Bridge Road is also, so there are some possibilities, so like where we can put it. As Mr. Carson has identified pretty clearly, is going back and is, looking at some, there's quite a bit of paperwork that is involved in becoming an Eagle Scout. So, excuse me, it's like 30-some pages, that he's going to have. And I did say the next step for him is to develop a plan, whatever you want to propose. Okay, you're going to have to get your approval of it, obviously, of your Scoutmaster, and you got to talk to him. So we need to talk to him again and say, okay, here's some possibilities, and what we need to, how are you doing? You're moving forward. He would like to get it done by the fall, which is very ambitious, but that's good for our timeline.
I have a question about the kayak.
Pardon me, yes.
I have a question about the kayak launch idea. So you mentioned that Morkland area, that there's some parking. Just curious, like, I don't know what it would attract. Would it be a public space? Could it get busy? Just kind of thinking about the possibilities if we create something like that or move forward to create a
Right.
space like that. What popularity do we anticipate on the use of such a space,
Yeah,
right?
You're right. Exactly. Well, I guess that, and I can't, I gave my kayaks away, but can anybody speak to the use of the kayak, like what they currently are using at Water's Edge?
I have no idea.
I
This
don't
is
know.
completely new to me.
Yeah,
so.
club.
Sunrise Park as well that has a kayak
They
launch
they
there.
did talk about moving.
Yeah, they talked
before.
about moving, and that's why I brought it up. I talked to them. They said, yeah, if you can, that'd be great. They wanted somewhere in the north. They'd want it on the north end, I think. No, the great question here, number one, is that the bird sanctuary area has tons of parking because you can park all up and down the dirt roads that are there. So not only is Morkland, you could park on Morkland, but also all the way up and down, what's that, Park Lane? Yeah, that portion of Park Lane.
And so if they park along there, would it be more of the direction of also still continue to use the trails, don't just wander straight through? Like, I know I'm getting ahead of.
No. I know what you're. I know what
But,
you're. Well, that's,
right, like-
you're forward thinking. That's good. No. I don't think that might be a possibility. I mean,
Just
so
needs
you,
to-
you
yeah,
have
yeah.
greater
I
use
guess you have
of
to do
that
the
area.
like risk management plan here, right?
Yeah. Well, Ray Geist said, it would probably be a good thing to talk to kayakers. Like,
find some kayakers,
like,
yeah.
hey, would this be a good spot or would this be all right? And I was at an event not too long ago, and I did talk to this one woman I know who's and she says, oh yeah, we put in on the other side of the Thoroughfare Canal right now. So if you're in, on Horse Mill and you're past the bird sanctuary, like or right by Canal where that bad sign is, okay, there's like a little trail there that goes down to and that's where people put their kayaks in right there. So it's like,
Hard to park there.
yeah, there's no
it is.
parking.
Right.
It's
Where's this
what do you
better?
park on Wood or something, whatever street, or you'd have to. You're not going to haul your kayak from Portage all the way down
No,
to.
another spot, what about the one where the bench is off of Meridian, before the bridge over Thoroughfare, the one I never could see and now I can
Yeah,
see?
very good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a possibility. Right, that could be a
That could
possibility
be a
too.
kayak launch, because
Right.
there's a lot of parking there too.
You know where that one's at?
Not
You might
picturing
have to
where this
explain it
is.
better.
No, but I'll
As
I'll
you
walk
drive north, okay, as you're heading north and you're going, you go past. You're not yet to the Thoroughfare Canal. On the left-hand side, so you're driving north now, okay, and hopefully traffic won't be backed up that far, but you realize
There's a porta potty at the
there's
entrance.
now a porta-john there. Don't ask me how that got there or why it's there, but needless to say, that's where our last Eagle Scout project, Enzo Bonomo built the deck. There's a deck there, and that's being used.
I know where you're talking
Okay,
about now.
that's being used. I've seen people on there quite often
Right.
using it. Okay, so that's a good thing. So, but there's a lot of possibilities. But again, it's now incumbent upon him to hey, okay, let's get the ball rolling here. But because we're anxious, I mean, we can give you some possibilities. So, anything else on the Eagle Scouts? All right, but yes, we talked a little bit about social media expansion. And I don't know where we're at with that or what we need to do with that. So I think Mickey gave the youngster some homework here. So
So me and Kaitlyn are trying to get a couple people onto the trails to really like promote the group aspect, and so we'll definitely be posting that. I see that next 2 weeks happening. And also I had a question. Do you think it would be appropriate to promote like nature land conservancy events on our Instagram, do you think? Like,
Well, there's a, you know, the Conservancy has its own website, sends out a lot of mailings. I don't, you could,
okay.
but, we're pretty out, the Conservancy has a lot of social media, you know, access.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, and keep in mind, this committee does not necessarily, although we want to increase it, it's like our main focus is not necessarily like, hey, we're having an event here. Okay, like our big event is like, okay, come clean some signs or go, you know, let's, you know, clean the trail or pick up some trash. I mean, those are the kind, I mean, not that we couldn't do other things here, but again, I don't think it's been our, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think it's been our focus to do so, but I'm not adverse to that. I mean, we promote, obviously, the Grosse Nature and Land Conservancy, you know, we have a liaison, for goodness sake, so, and have had that.
So we have Facebook and Instagram, right?
I only have an Instagram. I don't know if Kaitlyn has a Facebook or not. I can ask her about that.
Because usually if you post on Facebook, it can also go immediately on Instagram, but it would be nice if people were out walking the trails and we could say, hey, post a picture of where you're at, or
Yeah,
just to kind of show the trails and.
Right.
for sure.
I mean, we can, you know, here's the other thing, you know, if you're gonna be, sticking around and looking for things to do on Grosse Hill, you don't wanna fight that. Sometimes the best thing you can do is go take a walk in the woods. That'll lower your blood pressure, if nothing else, or you should, okay? Unless it's one of your signs that somebody's tampering with, but, you know, but other than that, yeah, go ahead.
So when you're talking about social media expansion, we're not talking about an account that the Open Space Committee itself has.
Yeah, I would.
Or we do have
We
one.
could,
We could.
we could. That's what I'm saying.
Ooh, I'm all in.
Or,
Yeah, and Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Open Space Committee has an Instagram page?
Yes.
That's what you're talking about, okay.
She just started it though, so we
Right.
really need to
so we're
start
in the
using
early
it.
stages, right, but it's
Right.
like, you know,
Right, but I like having Facebook and Instagram because sometimes, you know, folks will post more on
Like
Facebook.
it bridges
and
an
then it will-
age gap, yeah.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Oh, absolutely. You know, that's very much important.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, but, you know, whatever,
Are we avoiding TikTok specifically?
I refuse to download it, so
I'm avoiding it too.
Yeah, I just didn't know as an organization, because I know, you know, tied to government, et cetera.
yeah, right, exactly.
How about any other platform?
I guess you'd have to tell us what the other platforms are.
I mean, we could start a YouTube channel, I suppose. But,
Yeah, there's YouTube, there's, obviously there's X, there's Blue Sky.
Wow.
And I know it's a lot to maintain, I was just curious.
Right.
If there
Yeah,
was-
that's
or
part of the
also
issue. Anytime you have, and
something.
I think you all know, nothing is worse than you have a website and then it's like out of date by, you
Yeah.
know, by a year, you
Yeah,
know, or
whatever it
6
is, we
months.
have to
Or it's like, you
maintain.
know, and even, you know, sometimes the township is a little guilty of that themselves, you know, so it's like, you know, so that's all. And it's just a question of, you know, so first, maybe the question should be, do you think that that's a viable path that we should be following? Like, we should be expanding, or at least getting information out, or doing more on social media? And I'm not quite ready to do a TikTok video, but,
But it would be nice that when you're talking about that bridge, to be able to put a picture of it and say, hey, we're thinking of doing a kayak launch at this location, and actually have pictures and say, you know, what do you think?
yeah.
You
Take
know,
a
our
poll.
kayakers out there, or,
Yeah,
yeah, and use the social media to do it.
We can put it on Grosse Hill now,
Right,
do that.
right, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, right. But, you know, should we have our own? I
Right,
do believe, okay, you know, you have a communication, and maybe you can talk about where that's going. We have a communications committee now, like at the township level. I think we had one, then it kind of dissipated, now it's back. But whether or not how they would, because in some cases, it's all fine and good to have our own little independent page, but also sometimes you need to also make sure that the message is correct, okay, and that you speak with one voice, particularly when you're talking about the township, you know, as opposed to, oh no, you know, so that makes sense. So, let's pursue that, or let's, I know Kaitlyn's ill, but if we can get back on that and we can talk about it at our next meeting, I think that would be helpful. Anything else on social media, or if you have some ideas?
I'll come to the next meeting with a communications plan
Awesome.
idea that we can use as a jumpstart to
Good.
engage the conversation and actually come up with some structure around
Awesome. If
Is
you'd
that
like to
good?
do a presentation, are we able to do that too?
it. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that way at the next meeting. So I'll
Yeah,
just
okay,
set that
awesome,
as my
good.
action.
Can I just say I really like you? That's very nice.
Yes, yeah, we do too.
Welcome.
We like them both. What's wrong, Bob? Come on.
No pressure. We'll,
No-
we'll let
no
you
pressure,
present
no
the next
pressure.
meeting.
All right, anything else on social media? My goodness. All right, moving right along. First off, if you look at, this is like an item that was added, number 6, talking about our current budget and that. One of the things I can just give people a little background, a little history, okay? And generally it's been, and I've been on this committee, I'm not going to say too long, but I've been on this committee for a while. And it's a question of, in past, committees, we generally do not have a regular item on our agenda that always identified the budget. Only from the standpoint is that there are, only from the standpoint is that there are months that we don't spend any money. Okay, so when we're looking at whatever kind of budget that we may or may not have, the only time, many times, we would have a, like an item on the budget would be like if there were some major expenditures or there was an action item, okay? So that's why when you're looking at our agenda, you don't see on a regular basis. Now, we can do that. I don't have a problem doing that, if you so choose. But again, we can start also doing that as a matter of course, okay? So we can put that. Many times, the other thing is that from the finance department, we don't always get this just prior to our meeting. So it comes, maybe like the day of or the day after or something, and so we don't always have it like, what's our, that's why it's not always identified as a regular budget item. So, just to get that clear. So, but if you take a look at least and again, the purple sheets I have, I'm out of green, but you're looking at our total assets here. So you look at the cash in the bank that we have. The fund check clearing, I believe, is for, and again, I believe this is from interest that has accrued to the overall account that is many times distributed to our account. And then the MBIA class is all of the monies for the township, including our Greenways Open Space Fund, is generally invested at the municipal level, at the state level. So this is a fund that municipalities throughout the state, many times, cities, townships, towns, villages, get their money there. And some of you may be more familiar with that. Are you more familiar with that than I? But again, that's from so when you're looking at our total assets, it's one thing. When you look at the fund balance, if you follow below that, which is not in the boldface, this, I believe, because when you're looking at, fund balance restricted, reserve capital improvements, budget control, you're looking at millions of dollars. I believe this is entered as a DPS entry. So since Greenways Open Space is under the auspices of the DPS, Department of Public Services, that's their money, but their money also is put together, and that's many times how we get interest on a monthly basis. Does that make sense? So when you looked at the final, what it said total fund balance, you see this $304,000 number. Okay, that was as of the fund balance of 24-25. Okay, that was like last year. And I can tell you right now, because when I first saw that, all of a sudden we were getting excited, like, we have $300,000. When we realized, and please understand that. We have two funds, and somehow they don't translate it that way. The first fund that we have is for property acquisition. And I can tell you, we have $20,000 in that, fund, but I don't see it identified in this report. The second fund we have is for budget maintenance, So when you're looking at that $300,000 and then you look at a figure of like $144,000 net revenue versus expenditures from 24-25, they did not post the sale that when we purchased property from on the north end, what we call the Cliff St. Pierre Preserve up there. So the property, if you're heading you're between Horace Mill and Bridge Road, that's open space property, and we bought from the township back in 24 a 1.100th acre parcel up there to attach it to the parcel that's already there. So they didn't post that until later in the fiscal year, towards the end. So all of a sudden there's a deduction of $144,000, blah, blah, and it's like, so now if you look at the $159,403, that's what our budget is. That's what our money is, like left in, our funds, Now, when you take a look at the net of revenue for our current year, we have, like the month of April, since our fiscal year started April 1st, we spent like $1,096.53, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So that leaves our total balance to like $158,000. So that's where we're at. Pardon me. Any questions? Turn the page. All right. This is our, again, you'll notice our amended budget. We have our interest earned, and this is what they're projecting, like $5,000 will be in interest. And again, that comes from all of the funds that we have that have been invested on the part of the township. Our prior year resources is like 5, and then our general budget is 40,500. So when we put our budget together, and this is before you guys joined us, one of the last things we did was that for this fiscal year, we said, our budget for this year will be $40,500, period. So they're using that as our basis. Keeping in mind, they also are anticipating like $5,000 in terms of interest. So when you take a look at that's column 1. Our year-to-date balance, this is what we've spent so far, $1,096.53. And you see that's the month for April. And so what we have available right between now and the end of the fiscal year, between now and next March, $39,403.47. So that's where we're at. So we're like, for this year's budget, we have $39,000. And again, our budget this year is less than it was last year because we're not doing as major projects as we had done in the past. Any questions about that page? Our next page, the last one, this is like our invoices that we've had so far, the month of April. So the open space signs that we've talked about, that cost $512, 10 cents. Those are, and as a matter of fact, we asked for 10, we got 20, so we got a deal. The multiple, where it says Huntington National multiple debt expenses, those were for the DPS when they're putting in those drains in the Meridian Woods. So a lot of the PVC piping and some of the connecting pieces there, that was $432.18. I think I also sent you a receipt from Lowe's. Did everybody send that electronically? Did you see that too?
I did not
Maybe
notice
not.
that.
Anyway, it was just a question of John Kime showed the receipt. And that's where that came from. And then I spent $152.25 on the posts, the U-posts, the nuts, bolts, and for the open space signs. So that was $150, and I got reimbursed for that. So we have spent so far like 2% of our budget. Is that what it is for? So we have some, not that we're, 2.71% of our budget has been used. So any question about that so far? So this is what we've spent so far, and we're within budget.
We approved that ClearGov for accounting, and so I know that finance was going to be working on that. I'm hoping we can get some better reporting once that's up and running,
Right.
and maybe I'll ask the treasurer about that.
Yeah. I mean, do you think, here's the other thing, do you think, and we haven't had this, but do we think we need the finance manager to come in and talk to us about, like, our budget or our budgeting or how
I'd like to hear when they're gonna have the better reports for us to start with, because I'm hoping that we have some say too, once we get it, what it looks like, and if we need to
Right.
modify it. So maybe we can find that out first and go
Yeah,
from
yeah,
there.
that's what I'm saying, so
Yeah.
rather than, but I'm not adverse to that. Right. Any other question about the budget? Any comment or question? Some I can't, best I can answer, is best I can answer. But again, we're okay. But please also understand, and I will use this last caveat, we have not, take a look at your tax bills for the last, 15 years, almost 20 years. Once the open space millages they have not been levied since 2002. So the monies have accumulated over the course of time when they were passed and now, but it's not a question of like every year you've been paying an open space millage, because you're not, okay? So these are finite numbers that we have acquired, okay, over the course of time. And naturally, obviously, we're getting some interest, which is, I think, was always a nice thing to have. But again, we've drawn down from the thousands of dollars that were hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of years. In both funds, the acquisition fund and the maintenance fund. And so right now, when we look at where we're at, in terms of our 150, 130 some thousand, that's it, okay? So eventually that money over the course of time will run out and we're gonna have to ask for more. But right now we're doing what we can. Okay, anything else on that one? Okay. Now we have some reports. We're doing okay time-wise. We'll get you there. Okay, it's been a busy agenda. Alicia, do you have anything from the schools? What's happening in the schools or what's going on?
I don't have anything really to report. AP exams are kind of anyone's thinking about at the moment, unfortunately. Yeah.
We understand. But again, we do thank all the schools and for their participation in the Earth Week events. And want to thank Dr. Roscoe and the students for their involvement and their interest. And again, they can always, first off, I open this up to the civics teachers, that they can always attend our meetings, okay, to see, what's what, and express their opinion. So that invitation is there. Good. Mickey, you have anything from the township?
I think I already mentioned a few things like ClearGov and that. What I did want to mention is there any way, like sometimes when we're having discussion and we're talking about different areas, I picture Bert's map, like maybe put it up on there so that folks that are watching the meeting can see.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
And also with us being newer, it helps us to get used to it.
Absolutely.
And the other thing was, I think in the wintertime we had talked that maybe once it gets nice out and dries up a little bit out there, that we could start to go and walk some of the properties to get us all
Yes,
more familiar with the areas.
absolutely.
That'd be really helpful.
No, absolutely. No.
Okay. Yep.
James, you have anything or?
Just updates on encroachment, some of the details for that, on some of the ordinance issues we had. There were 2 properties on 4th Street. They were handled. They did take they weren't an immediate, resolution sort of situation, but they were working with us the whole time and keeping in touch with us in communication, so we were giving them a little longer to work on it. Those have been settled and closed out. They were corrected. Julie gave us the reports on that and said that everything was corrected and we were all set there, so those are good. There is, as I was told before about on Boyd, that is something that I will have to get in touch with my boss about and get an update, and then I can email you guys and keep you aware where we stand for that one at least.
So we had talked, and instead of me reaching out all the time saying, okay, where are we at on the encroachments? We thought it would be nice if he just automatically reports out, and that
Oh,
way
yeah,
everybody
absolutely.
knows.
That's
and-
why you say, right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So from here on out, that's what I can, at least during the reports, I can give on at least on the current enforcement issues that we're dealing with, encroachment specifically.
Yeah,
So-
if you can touch base with Ross before each
Yeah.
meeting. I
Yeah,
know everybody's really
absolutely.
busy right now, and he
Yeah.
might be directing traffic on the bridge. I don't know.
There is a
There's
lot
so
going
much
on,
going
but
on.
I should be able to take some time just to ask him
Right. No, that's fine.
beforehand,
No, that's good.
before meeting. So.
And Mickey, I didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't know if you
Oh,
had
no.
anything, any other thing to report from the township.
No, the township has actually been, I've been more focused lately, I apologize, but on the fire department. And so, actually, in my fire commission meeting right before this one, and we're gonna recommend that James Gatt become the new, fire marshal. So we're kind of excited for that.
Good.
And I don't even know if he knows yet because,
You will now.
yeah. So hopefully he'll hear this.
You heard it here first. You gotta tune into the Greenways open space to find out what's happening. That's
Yeah.
good. You
Yeah.
don't know. Shh, don't tell anybody.
It's just a recommendation to the board, but then we'll bring it to the board on Monday, so.
That's good, good.
Yeah.
Glad to hear it.
Mhm.
Good. That's funny. Okay. James, any more on community development or anything else? Good.
Not that
Thank
I
you.
can
Thank you
think
for following up on that and taking care of business in that.
This report on, it's
Right.
really helpful.
Mandy, what do you have for the Grosse Hill Nature and Land Conservancy?
Well, try not to take up too much time,
Well, I'll give you 2 minutes.
but,
I'm just-
I wanted to go, instead of all the couple events I have for the future, I wanted to give kudos to the education committee at the Conservancy, Isabel Rista, who did the Earth Day presentation on Sunday, April 27th, and there were quite a few speakers. The Priority Waste representative had a video and 2 videos and was so informative about what's going on with, garbage pickup and the recyclables and what you can and can't do. And she was been with them for a long time. She knows a lot about it. And I think if there's somehow the public could see the video, and I haven't inquired yet, with the Conservancy about that, but I think it would be really to the community's interest to be able to see that video. I was just amazed what I learned. Also, the 2 high school students did a presentation from the environmental club about the microplastics in water. And the kids did a terrific job, and they knew what they were talking about, and they could answer questions. It was just excellent, and I think everybody there learned quite a bit about it. They were so good. And also, Dr. Julia Roscoe came in. Roscoe, I'm sorry. Is it Roscoe or
Roscoe.
Roscoe? Okay, I'm sorry. Did also an excellent presentation on building a water.
Rain garden.
Well, rain garden, thank you so much. I should have looked that up first. A rain garden, and that was really informative and really helpful, and a lot of people were really interested in it. She's just terrific, and both Open Space and the Conservancy are really lucky to have her so involved environmentally and with the kids. We're really, really lucky to be able to have a connection with her. And the other event that happened on Saturday that I wanted to mention, I don't know if people have noticed it, but there's a garden in front of the new Conservancy building, the Jackson Resource Center. Worked on restoring the garden in front. And that garden just got planted a year ago. Is that right? A year ago?
Yeah.
And it's just booming, and it's doing so well. And it's really a source of pride for the Conservancy. That was Saturday, and I wanted, Victoria Murphy does that, and I just wanted to give some kudos to them and to Victoria as well. So this Saturday, a week from Saturday, May 17th, is the Sunrise Park cleanup with the rec department, The Sunrise Park, for those of you that don't know, is at the end of Grosseale Parkway, right at East River. And they're having a event to beautify that Sunrise Park. It's one of the island's only public access, speaking of which, points to the water. And we need help to get ready for the season. And we really hope lots of people will come to help work together to make it a welcoming and beautiful spot for all residents to enjoy. And if anybody can, please come and lend a hand. It's really, it's like a little beach, and it really does get used a lot. So if anybody can come by to help with the cleanup, it would be greatly appreciated. Tuesday, May 20th is,
Mandy, what time is that? Do you know?
I'm sorry, 9 a.m. to noon. Sorry. Thanks, Bill. Yeah, that's Saturday at 9 a.m., May 17th for the cleanup at Sunrise Park. Tuesday, May 20th is Hummingbirds, Nature's Jewels at the Jackson Center. And you know, I don't have a time on here. I think it's at night, and I apologize that I don't have the time on here. Let's see.
That's
is it on
usually
this one?
7, I think.
6 to 7:30, right, on May 20th.
Oh, there you go.
And those are always really very informative. That's always the Wild Birds Unlimited talk about the ruby-throated hummingbird,
Nice.
the only hummingbird in the eastern United States. And discuss attracting them to your yard by enhancing the habitat and adding a supplemental feeder. Next on the agenda coming up is Island Fest. May 30th, June 1st. It's one of the Conservancy's most important outreach events of the year. It's a unique opportunity for us to connect with the public, raise awareness about the mission, grow our network of supporters. We'll have a booth at the airport throughout Island Fest, looking for help for volunteers to help with setup, tear down, and staffing the booth during the event. Booth volunteers will participate by greeting people, sharing information about our conservation efforts, distribute materials, and collect contact details from those interested in getting involved. Oh. And here's something that ever since the Conservancy began in 1993 has been an issue. Speaking of volunteers, is always looking for volunteers to help with our educational events. A chance to enhance your outdoor experience, rise nature awareness, and collect with like-minded individuals, and be part of something truly, really meaningful. Your time and skills can help to make a difference. And you can go to Grosseale Nature Land Conservancy, GINLC.org, to sign up for any event. And there's a genus sign up too on one of the links on the website. So that's it for right now. Over and
Very
out.
good. Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Excellent. Good. Thank you. I don't believe our new members have received any lists of new residents to Grosseale. No.
Correct.
So I will make a little note of that and see if we can't get you that, and also get you the letters and whatever else you need in order to get that going, okay? But we'd like to introduce, new members or people who have moved to the island to, to welcome them and look at our guide to nature areas and invite them to our meetings. This is the time for public comment, and again, this would be in reference to anything that was on the agenda at this point in time. And so, hearing none, there are no public comments to be made. I would entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:16.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Bartlett,
Second.
second by Ms. Phillips. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're good. Okay, thank you.